Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Coach Prime staying active in the transfer portal, landing edge rusher Khairi Manns from Maine. We're going to check out a little bit of his highlights, a little bit about what he's going to bring to Colorado. You're seeing Coach Prime look at this defense and saw they only sacked the quarterback 9 times last year. That's quite frankly not going to cut it. And you see the amount of talent they've loaded up from these edge rushers in the transfer portal. Coach Prime's clearly addressing it. And if you guys are kind of a friend of the show, you know how important I feel about getting after the passer at the college football level. When I evaluate defenses, that's one of the main things I'm taking a look at is how well can they create pressure and havoc on the quarterback. And it certainly helps when you only need 4 guys to do it. Now, before we get into it again, just want to say thank you to you guys. Just the support you guys have shown, especially the Colorado fans. You know, we've been talking a lot of Colorado football. It's one of the more intriguing stories for me as we head into 2023. We really haven't seen much like this in the case of this much of a roster turnover, this much of a rebuild, and we certainly haven't seen a head college football coach like Coach Prime yet. So I'm extremely fascinated in it. We enjoy talking about it, and the support you guys have shown truly does mean a lot. So again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys. And once this is all over, we'll kind of recap what Colorado did in the transfer portal. Let's talk about Khairi Manns, though. I want to kind of pull up what he brings to the table in his highlights. This is a guy who is had some Power 5 offers. Kansas and Colorado kind of went head-to-head to land his commitment out of the transfer portal. You're seeing Colorado target a pure pass rusher. I don't know if he's going to be a 3-down edge guy. That, quite frankly, that's okay because we're going to talk about how many guys they brought in to play that edge spot. They're going to be okay here. Manns is a guy that they're bringing him in to get after the quarterback, and you fire up what he brings to the table in terms of rushing the passer, attacking the outside shoulder of tackles. This one, not really. This is more just a pursuit guy being just an impact football player. But as we get through these clips, you're really going to see Manns show his elite pass rushing chops, not only as a twitched up athlete coming off the edge. Like you're going to see the burst and bend he has, which it's there, but you're going to see more of just a technician rushing the passer. Like he just gets how to get to his moves. He knows how to beat tackles. You're going to see some bend around and like the burst and bend. When you have burst and bend, it makes rushing the passer so much easier. Here you see a little bit of a drag here and he puts a tackle on his butt. It's hard to do, whether you're coming from the FCS level or not. Here's again, just attacking the outside shoulder, bending under and getting to the quarterback. He brings a lot to the table when it comes to rushing the quarterback. And there is no doubt in my mind that is kind of what Maine was targeting, or Colorado was targeting, excuse me. So to go back to Maine, there's going to be some, and we talk about the Colorado haters plenty. Like there's going to be some haters who say, oh, he's an FCS guy, blah, blah, blah. Jared Verse, in my mind, the second best edge rusher, arguably the first best, the best edge rusher in the country heading into the year at Florida State. He transferred from SUNY Albany. Like there are good players everywhere you look at the college football level, whether it's FBS, whether it's G5, whether it's FCS in here at Maine. Like they're good football players. And I think Colorado has identified a very good football player, kind of a diamond in the rough. What I want to talk about a little bit more, and we'll talk about what they're doing in the transfer portal, is let's talk about just the amount of edges, the edge pass rushers that they've brought in. Obviously, they brought in Taylor Upshaw. He's transferred out, but Jordan Dominic, a guy who sacked a quarterback 9.5 times last year in the SEC. That is just about as many sacks as Colorado's defense had, period, all season long in the Pac-12 last year. Derek McClendon, a starter on Florida State who is a top 10 team. Savell Smalls, a former 5-star who has every trait in the book that you want in an edge rusher. Arden Walker from Missouri. Taj Austin, who is kind of I don't know if you'd use the term pet cat, but I've liked him for a couple of years. He's coming over from West Virginia. You bring in J.J. Hawkins from Ole Miss, and now Khairi Manns from Maine. Now, all these guys aren't going to be starters. Obviously, you only play with 2 edge rushers. I would guess it's going to be Jordan Dominic and Derek McClendon from a standpoint of what have you done for me on the college football field. Like both Jordan Dominic and Derek McClendon have played at the Power 5 level. They've played at a high level. But keep an eye on a guy like Savell Smalls, who arguably is the most talented edge rusher on this depth chart. And then Khairi Manns is seemingly a guy that probably won't play on first and second down, but if you need a speed rusher on the outside that can beat tackles on the outside, I wouldn't be surprised if Khairi Manns is playing significant snaps for Colorado on 3rd and long when it's pin your ears back time and just go after the quarterback. So This is a good get, and I think it's going to go underrated by the people who just are going to say you could bring in Alt McCaskill, who they brought in last week, and they say, oh, he's a nobody. Alt McCaskill is not a nobody. Now, Khairi Manns is a guy that, yeah, he hasn't proven at the Power 5 level yet, but you go and check out what he brings to the table at the FCS level. There is a lot to like. Javon Antonio, another guy coming from outside the Power 5 level, who is another guy that I think can play some good football. So the mixed bag of where Coach Prime is going in the transfer portal is intriguing. You're taking some guys who are really good out of high school who just maybe need a change of scenery, but you know they have the athletic traits to play at the Power 5 level. A lot of those guys from Florida State probably would fall into that category. You have some guys who are just looking for a change of scenery, like Alden McCaskill. He had no reason to transfer. He was a stud at Houston, and Colorado goes and gets him. Jimmy Horn Jr. is probably another good example. Xavier Weaver is probably another good example of guys who just they want to be a part of what this program has to offer with Coach Prime at the helm. And then you're finding Coach Prime getting his bag a little bit in terms of the talent evaluation, which is such an under talked about aspect of college football. Like being able to go watch an FCS game and say, hey, that guy's going to translate to the Power 5 level. We use the Jared Verse example. That was a phenomenal job by Florida State to go say, hey, he's playing at Albany. He's a damn good football player that can produce at the Power 5 level. They bring him in. He's one of the best edge rushers in the country. Coach Prime dipping into that a little bit with some of these takes, right? Javon Antonio, the kid from Southern Utah, the safety. These guys who kind of off the radar, a little bit diamonds in the rough, but if you can hit on those guys, you see it in the high school class, you see it in the transfer portal class. Like there are a lot of good football players across the country, and for whatever reason, they just haven't really caught the eye of some Power 5 coaches. Coach Prime kind of finding some diamonds in the rough, kind of mixed in with some guys that are going to be pretty good football players. Big fan of what they are doing in the transfer portal. Now they have 6 scholarships left, and y'all can check my math on that because I'm not totally positive. It's 5, 6, 7. One of those two. Taking a look at the transfer pot, obviously, Troy not coming back to Colorado. He transferred out, but some good players like Zachary Franklin. You got to think, coach, like this Colorado team, because they're one of the only probably limited Power 5 teams that have a surplus of scholarships still to give, are going to be contenders for some of the top guys in the transfer portal. Zachary Franklin, in my mind, him and Keon Coleman were some of the best wide receivers we saw in the portal. He's caught for over 1,000 yards the last 2 years at UTSA. Wouldn't be surprised if he wants to go play for that explosive offense. Ethan White's a guy that has an injury designation, but you take a look. I mean, Colorado still has some scholarships to give when a lot of Power 5 teams don't. There are still some good players in this transfer portal. Sean Washington probably being the guy that I think Colorado should target the most next. Continuing to build the trenches, you can do it with the guy 310 plus pounds from Georgia. I trust Georgia linemen more than I do anything in this world. Still some work to do for Coach Prime in the transfer portal. Good news is there's plenty of good players still in the transfer portal. Wanted to keep this one short, but did want to talk a little Khairi Manns as he commits to Colorado. Again, appreciate the support you guys have shown. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.